But of course, the biggest news over the break was the inauguration of Joe Biden, the storming of the US Capitol, and now the militarization of Washington. We've seen violence on both sides of the political debate in the US, and it's very sad to watch here from the safety of Australia. Now, Joe Biden has said he wants to heal the nation, unify the nation, and that's welcome news.
To restore the soul and secure the future of America requires so much more than words. It requires the most elusive of all things in a democracy: unity. Unity.
Unity is, of course, what's needed. But if he means those words, if he truly means them, he will stop Nancy Pelosi and his party, the Democrats, from trying to impeach and even convict Trump for inciting the riots. Not for Trump's sake, but for those who support him and in the interest of calming the nation, in the interest of peace, in the interest of the 74-odd million Americans who voted for Trump. If Biden wants to heal the nation, don't try to throw in prison the person they voted for. Of course, convict and use the full letter of the law against the vigilantes who started and participated in the storming of the Capitol. And equally, authorities should convict and prosecute those responsible for violence and the destruction of property during the Black Lives Matter protests. The law needs to apply equally to all sides of the political spectrum. And so should freedom of speech. And this brings me to the next topic that's had me, and I'm sure you, pretty angry too. The restriction of freedom of speech by the tech giants. Freedom of speech is so fundamental to Australian values and to the values of all Western democracies. But the place where speech happens in 2021 is often online, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the internet. And the tech giants have taken it upon themselves to censor speech, to remove, delete, ban speech they don't like. It just disappears from the internet like it never existed. And we're not talking speech that will incite violence. In many cases, that's fine. They leave that up there, whether it's the Ayatollah of Iran or other violent dictators in North Korea, China. They're fine to go ahead and say their hateful words. They're censoring speech that they don't like, if it's speech they don't agree with, if it's fashionable, if it's not fashionable, if it's conservative, if it's pro-Trump. Now, of course, this gave rise to Parler, a new platform where the unfashionable, far-right conservative voices moved. Parler was on its way to $1 billion valuation, but virtually overnight was made worthless, rendered worthless, because it was deplatformed by all the tech giants. It was withdrawn from the App Store, so it couldn't be downloaded, and that was both on Apple and Google App Stores. And then Amazon stopped hosting it, so Parler couldn't even have a website. It effectively got removed from the internet. Now, that might not worry you because, you know, as a conservative, if you're not a far-right or conservative person, you know, you might not have tried to access that website, but it should worry you because such is the arrogance of these tech giants that they can now get away with deciding which businesses survive in 2021. They can get away with controlling free speech. Parler hadn't broken the law, it hadn't been convicted of a crime, but basically at its heart, because the tech giants didn't agree with its political ideology, it doesn't exist anymore. And it's why Trump has been banned from all the social media accounts, but China, Iran, North Korea, you name it, all still have a platform for their speech. And it gets worse. The arrogance seemingly has no end. Google, as you might have heard over the past 2 days, on Friday, Google threatened to cut off the whole of Australia from news, from the internet virtually, from its search engine. Google has threatened to absolutely pull its search engine in reaction to plans from the government, very sensible plans for it to come to an agreement with media outlets to pay for the content from which it profits. Both the Prime Minister and the Treasurer have hit back at this threat.
Australia makes our rules for things you can do in Australia. That's done in our parliament, it's done by our government, and that's how things work here in Australia. And people who want to work with that in Australia, you're very welcome. But we don't respond to threats.
We don't respond to threats. It seems the digital giants keep changing the goalposts.
Google, a monopoly player, is used to bullying small businesses. It often forces them to pay to buy ads on its site to even appear in its search engines. Well, Google has tried to water down the scandal it caused with a video message where it tried to explain its position, but it's only met a backlash online.
The News Media Bargaining Code would break how Google search works in Australia. Now, I know that sounds pretty full on, but it's true. You know how search works. You search, we show you links, and you decide what site to go to. Paying for links breaks the way search engines work, and it undermines how the web works too.